We're back. We were just listening to some
Yes, we are back, everybody.
Yeah, just listening to some classics. Just like to bring in some classics.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing I was reading about that happened in Zimbabwe. I just heard the gist of it was one of the things that had happened to Zimbabwe. And see, this is the sort of thing when people like Mugabe and Emerson Mnangagwa start talking about colonialism when it comes down to their human rights abuses. You're like, yeah, they're human rights abusers, but people just came into their country. Archaeologists, when tried to get across, or like tried to convince people that that Zimbabwean artifacts were from Egypt. Yeah. Like, how did they get there? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. They tried, and there was like looting. Okay, like what happened. So anyway, that's where the name of Zimbabwe comes from. Okay, so.
Man, I wish that one day, like, some kind of god or of historians can just come down and tell everybody the truth about everything. I would just love to know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's just so much stuff that goes on, like you just were saying.
Yeah.
Like artifacts from Zimbabwe, from Egypt.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would like to know what is really true.
I know.
Everybody has theories and they're going off of geographics and stuff like that, but I would just love to know what the true truth is.
Well, that's what makes things interesting.
True.
And I was having a conversation with some people the other day, and I was telling somebody was like, wait a minute, there's no more Zaire? I was like, no, there's no more Zaire. The Democratic Republic of Congo was called, it lasted longer than I thought. I thought it was called Zaire between 1971 and 1997. And as we know, it was called Zaire during Rumble in the Jungle, which is why,
Right.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I could have seen that.
Yeah. But that was when General Mobutu, was working on making everything sound more African. So that's what,
right.
Yeah, and that's when he changed his name to Mobutu Sese Seko from what it was before. So anyway, but somebody kept. I don't know. I mean, for me as a historian, I'm not interested in making decisions about stuff or saying this is what it is. And so I was talking with people. I was trying to explain about human rights abuses in Congo, and just that Congo was different than other countries that were colonized, because you have colonization where people come in and barge in and take over and set up, which is bad and wrong, but the country is a place to them. It exists. They can care about it. They can like it. They stole it, but you can like something you stole. But Congo was just a factory. King Leopold of Belgium managed. It was practically his own. His country, I guess, nominally colonized Congo, but all the money was going into he ran it privately.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just it was just he mechanized people. He mechanized a country.
Yeah.
It's really scary to read about. And so the conversation I was having with somebody, it was like, yes, there was colonization, human rights abuses all over the place, and we can learn about things they weren't all the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. King Leopold of Belgium saw that other countries were getting rich off of their colonies, and he wanted his own colony, and it was just diabolical from the very beginning. I mean, he made it seem academic, or he made it seem scholarly. Yeah, so that's the heritage of Congo. I mean, there was never even any pretense of liking or discovering or anything like that, of settling or anything like that. So, I mean, it's just different. Different places have different heritages, and so somebody asked me, was like, oh yeah, what about Botswana? And I was like, well, no, I mean, Botswana was chill because Botswana never had any resources or riches, so nobody colonized them.
No one tried to colonize
Exactly,
them.
yeah. Botswana was a protectorate of the United Kingdom, not a colony, which is still, I mean, the UK managed to try and boss, was imperialist enough already. But again, okay, there's differences between colonies and protectorates, and Botswana moved from a monarchy to a democracy, but the person that was the king became the president. But he was a very interesting person. In the 1950s, the leader of Botswana was, I think I've talked about this a little bit before. Seretse Khama was going to school in the UK and fell in love with a white woman, and this is the 1950s.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. I guess they loved each other or whatever.
Oh, they did.
That's a hard kind of love to do back then.
Well, it is. It was a hell of, and so the government tried to prevent them. The government wouldn't let him go back to Botswana. I mean, and it was, they tried to, because Botswana is next to South Africa.
Right.
And so they were basically trying not to piss off South Africa because of apartheid. So, and yeah, so it took, I mean, Seretse Khama was exiled for years, but no, they stayed. I mean, it's a real love story. They stayed. And it was a question, because the British people were saying like, oh no, you know what, your people will never accept a white woman as queen and whatever, and people liked her fine,
Right.
And because he, I mean, sort of like they loved him, and so they accepted her. And yeah, their son is now the leader of Botswana. It was made into a pretty good movie called The United Kingdom. And the reason I know about it is because there's a book about them that's by the historian who wrote Justice for Hammarskjöld, My Big Cause, and so she also wrote this, and about what is it called again? About the Khamas. But that was pretty remarkable, because the UK, it's just different. I mean, because the UK in some ways was more progressive race-wise than the United States, but they were all, what was stupid is they took this real superior sort of attitude about the United States, because they didn't have Jim Crow. But it's like, well, you colonized half the world, okay?
Right,
so
right.
get off your high horse. and they're like, oh, we haven't had slavery since the 17th century. Well, it's like, no, you didn't. But that's because you allowed slavery in your colonies.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You just didn't allow it in England, but you allowed it in your colonies. Okay?
Right.
So reckon with that, okay, people? So yeah, that was kind of interesting, and there was Jackie Robinson went to the United Kingdom, so there were people that found more freedom there. But hey, UK, do not, what you guys have blood on your hands, okay?
They do, but you notice that a lot of actors, singers, and artists, they tend to, once it's not as good over here, they still thrive over it in the UK. They go over there, they seem to still, people still like them. Unlike here, we kind of kick people to the curb after a minute.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Saying, there was a group, I guess the Whispers. You know who the Whispers are, right?
Not sure.
And the beat goes on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They were still performing. They've been performing in Europe for like a long time.
Yeah.
And they still are kind of liked in Europe. Like, unlike here where no one really has the Whispers. No one really knows. Like, they don't care as much for the Whispers as they do in Europe.
Well, Europe subsidizes art more.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that's interesting about arts administration here. Because I'm a big opera fan, and one of the things that's really difficult for Europeans when they come here and try to run arts company and somebody was director of the San Francisco Opera for a while who came from Europe, and she finds out that directors of arts organizations in the United States need to raise money. That's their job. That's what they do, and they don't have to do that in Europe.
Oh, why is that?
Subsidized. The
Wow.
arts are subsidized.
Wow, didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, not everywhere, I'm sure, but they are here. It's
right.
not. So that's kind of interesting. Oh man, okay. Speaking of, I was listening to a conversation from my friends Guy and Marie today. Okay, I'm not terribly interested in tariffs, trade war, tariffs.
Oh, you're talking about Trump trying to put a tariff? Who's he putting a tariff on?
Well, he's putting tariffs on a whole lot of stuff. And okay, so what just happened was he tried to pass an initiative to subsidize farmers while the tariff is happening, because it's making farmers lose money. And so the conservative person on the radio show I listened to was going nuts. Cause he's like, oh my God, that's like something Bernie Sanders would have done. It's a government bailout. They went back and found some statute from the 1930s to help farmers, since Gabriel probably can figure this out better than me. But so that's sort of interesting. Like, basically, it's a trade war, and so other countries like China, now they're slapping tariffs on on products that come from Trump's areas, because they know what his areas are. So basically, I mean, the tariffs are screwing over farmers and who voted for Trump. So yeah, but
that voted for him, but I knew this was. I kind of knew this was going to happen. He's trying to, and you know what I'm saying. And the people who vote for him, they're like, I don't know, they're like those old school kind of people that are like into like, we're gonna just do it, we're tough, we can just do this. And
well,
it's gonna work.
I wish they were though, but unfortunately, they're not all old people. Unfortunately, I mean,
well, not old. I mean, old as in their old way of thinking, like the 1950s way of thinking. Like they can just do stuff, and there's never gonna be a reaction from it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I noticed that old school thinking people think like that. They have a way of thinking that, you know, okay, we're just going to slap tariffs on stuff. You know, we're spending too much money. We're going to make them work with us. And it's like, a lot of times that stuff don't work. And then at the end of all this, when you done made everybody your enemy, you know what I'm saying? What are you going to do about that side of it, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, that's the thing. We'll see what happens, because I mean the problem is the elitism of liberals toward, you know, they just really look down on Trump voters, and it's like, you can't do that. You need to try and okay, there's the thing about healthcare, this conviction that people voted against their own healthcare. And there was an article in the New York Times about it that my dad posted on his Facebook page, and I just put underneath it, you know, I mean, until these people are more bothered about their health care than we are, that's really not the constructive attitude to take, okay?
Right.
Like, people can figure out their own health care.
Right.
I really believe that, and if they decide that they don't like what he's doing, then we'll see. But you know, we gotta be smart about it,
Right.
and communicate, talk to people.
Right. Or what about the whole issue when he had the meeting with Putin, and then when he got out and said, "Well, I kind of believe what Putin is saying, and I think our intel," and then. I mean, dude, that is like, that's like slapping people in the face, man.
Exactly.
That's like slapping the United States and just be like,
exactly.
You know, you're doing this guy who's an agent,
yeah,
you know, who doesn't even like the United States, one of our main enemies,
yeah.
and we're going to say, I believe him over our own intelligence.
And, yeah, and he's fucking murderous. I mean, he's helping the Syrian government.
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah.
And all this stuff is it's like with that, and then like you said, putting tariffs on everything. This is gonna backfire. This is gonna eventually. I mean, and we still got how many more years? 2 more years of them.
2 more years.
Dude, this is, man.
I know.
I mean, I hate to tell you to say it like this, but I'm just waiting for something to happen. I don't know what is going to happen, but at his rate of doing the stuff that he's doing,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
something big is going to happen somewhere. I just, man,
yeah,
I don't know what to say on that,
yeah,
but.
You know, and if something happens to him, then we get pants. But, you know, I mean, I just feel like, I mean, just what scares me about, just the thing that's scary to me about Trump is that I think he's a nihilist. I mean, I don't think he cares about anything. I don't think I don't think he loves. I don't think he's capable of joy. And so when you have somebody like that, I mean, he's not going to try and like keep things peaceful because he doesn't care. And so I feel like, okay, even if we get like somebody super conservative like Mike Pence in there, I think the guy has a heart. I think he can try and communicate with them. You know, he cares.
That was always my main argument. It's like, even if the Republicans did win, how can you choose this guy?
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Out of all the other ones to choose, you choose the guy that really has no heart. And I don't know, even though he's a businessman, he doesn't really seem that smart to me.
Oh, no.
Everybody keeps saying, well, he was a businessman. I'm like, but he was off of his dad. You guys act like he did this from the ground up. Exactly. He's not like Bill Gates. He didn't make a computer and get famous with it. This guy is off his dad.
Yeah,
his dad had a bunch of friends. I'm pretty sure his dad paid off people to keep his son right. Exactly. He probably has an advisor. He probably doesn't do too much of anything.
He deserves
except for sign his name to whatever the advisor tells him to.
He deserves as much credit as Kylie Jenner does.
Exactly.
God, I wish I didn't know that. Yeah, because fucking Forbes magazine put Kylie Jenner on the cover as the world's youngest self-made billionaire. You are not self-made.
Right.
Look at that, man.
That's what
I mean,
I'm saying,
it's such a slap in the face to women.
I know.
You know,
man.
I mean, to women that like get out there and work hard. I mean, you know, and do, you know, like nobody gave Oprah anything.
Right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And people like Oprah did it from the ground up.
Yeah.
You know, they scraped to get where they at. These other people, it was handed to them. They were born into it. They were going to be rich whether they did something or not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you know, it's just...
Even if Trump fails, even
Yeah.
if Kylie Jenner fails, let's just say, dude, they're always going to have money.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a little bit like, fuck you. That's the... I mean, it's like how... You know, it's the same thing. It's like they like to highlight Beyonce, and you know, I just feel like they did something rather about power brokers. It was a bunch of dudes and Beyonce and one of her like stage outfits or something. It's like, okay, that's a stage outfit. Why don't you wear like, this is like, if you want to look like a business okay, this is about business, this is about money. Okay, like fucking wear some clothes, okay? You know, show some...
Well, once they have money, I think they don't care anymore. They don't. It doesn't. I mean, those.
Well, to me, it just pisses me off because it's just so set. Because to me, what makes me mad is that the people making the decisions, the boardroom and all that, they're like, okay, fine, we're gonna like take some, we're gonna like pick a few like really, you know, so far as like women, like, oh yeah, you know what, we'll just pick a couple hot celebrities and like, yeah, this is what we have so far as successful women. Like, fuck you. Get some real people, okay?
Right.
You know.
I give. Well, Beyonce came from the bottom. She had to learn.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying that, you know, to me, celebrity entertainers it's not like they shouldn't be right next to all these captains of industry. There are women captains of industry. Highlight them, okay?
Right.
If you're gonna like, you know, yeah, do an article about celebrity millionaires, zillionaires, and put them in there. But if you're going to talk about captains of industry, get some real people, not not celebrities.
I agree. It's sad. Like I said, man, we're gonna have a weird couple of next 2 years, man, with all this stuff going on. And,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Just like that movie, Gang. You ever seen Gang of New York? Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stuff like that happens, man, when people get to a certain point where they're desperate, man, things just start going haywire.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, y'all. Let's take another break. Okay? Thank you, people. We'll be back. Thank you, Gabriel, and thank you, Tony.